Welcome to part one of Keeping Up with the Conservatives, Kardashians. We're going to cover the timeline so far, why everybody is wrong, and I'll give you the simplest solution to the primary issue that could have avoided this entire situation. I'm Zeb Boykin, and words have meaning.
Grow their brand. They can be wage slaves for a little bit.
Alright, so let's run through this timeline real briefly. We'll start with Crowder's first initial video, and I'm going to call that the December 15th video, where he says he is leaving The Blaze. He's not renewing his contract, and therefore he is a free agent. Prior to this video, he had his agents reach out, because on October 5th, the Daily Wire offered a non-binding term sheet to Steven Crowder, which means prior to that, his agents must have reached out to the Daily Wire and assumably some other media organizations. This was the $50 million 4-year deal that has been flown for the last few days. Steven then responded on November 2nd with a counteroffer of $120 million for 4 years. Now this leads us to the initial video of Steven Crowder and the term sheet that he released on January 17th, where he shows some of the numbers, some of the fees, specifically for social media demonetization, that the Daily Wire has written into their contract, or specifically the contract with Steven Crowder. These numbers don't look good for the Daily Wire, so they responded. They weren't called out by name, but they were essentially forced to respond because of the backlash that they got from Crowder fans and even Daily Wire fans, because like I said, these numbers don't look good. Now this response, Jeremy went through the entire term sheet and tried to explain away most everything. He did a fairly decent job, even though the video was an hour long. So the following day, on January 19th, Steven Crowder releases these receipts that were threatened in the first video. These receipts are a phone call that he recorded with Jeremy. Now, this phone call was recorded on January 12th, just 1 week prior. And on this phone call, assumably a private phone call that wasn't being recorded, Jeremy came out with maybe some choice words that were meant to be between friends, as Jeremy also stated in his video that him and Crowder were friends, and assuming that friendship is no longer there, which leads us to where we are today. If you made it this far, leave me a like. This is part one. I will follow up with a part two as we continue this saga of the Kardashians. Monday night should hold a few bit of appearances from either party, so if you would like to keep up with them, go ahead and subscribe. And so as we move into the next segment, these are my opinions. I'll try to break this down as easily as I can. So if you disagree with anything I say, you think I get something wrong, I'll leave something out. Please leave a comment. I would love to discuss in the comment section. I know we have some very opinionated people watching. And as I've noticed in the last few days, there are a few Crowder stands out there. So my first point is going to be, this should have never been public whatsoever. This is an issue that makes everyone look bad. It should have never been public. There should have been a personal and professional courtesy given, or at least a heads up to the Daily Wire. I know Steven wants to make them the enemy, but at the end of the day, they aren't. Maybe they are under the umbrella of Big Con, but they are a net positive for the conservative movement. And as I've already called it before, this isn't a reality show. This isn't Keeping Up with the Kardashians, but now it is. It's been pushed to that point where it's so exposed that people like me are jumping on board. So before we get into this too heavily, I would like to show my support for Knowles and not necessarily the Daily Wire in this comment made 2.5 years ago saying to get out while you can. So that being said, I'm not a Daily Wire spokesperson, but you throw $50 million at me, I might just sign it. But Crowder has lied to you not once, not twice, but possibly 3 or 4 times. The first lie was a lie of omission on the initial video releasing the term sheet, where he didn't release all of the numbers, nor all of the contract, quote unquote contract. The second lie is a lie of omission again. The same concept, the same way with the phone call. The full phone call has never been released, and is very deceptive that he only releases very, very small excerpts. And then what I would consider the third lie is the lie that it's not about the money. Obviously, at some point it is about the money. If you counteroffer at $120 million, that means at some point it is about the money. And anyone that tells you that it's not about the money is lying to you. Now, the phone call that was released was not recorded back in October, not even November, when the term sheet was given to Crowder or even his response. It was recorded 1 week prior to the video of the term sheet that started all of this. It seems like all this is set up. And it probably is, because it's about the money. It's to rile up his base. It's just very shady that he records a phone call with a friend, a private phone call, and then release that phone call without a heads up. Again, that's very shady. I wouldn't be surprised if no one in the near future or even ever works with Crowder again. This isn't what you do to a team member, or at least someone that should be on your team. At the end of the day, all trust is lost after the phone call release. Now, the term sheet fix. These fees, I agree with Crowder. Crowder is correct where he says that these fees should be restructured. They should have a different model. The simplest model, very simple, not complicated at all. Simply take the fee and replace it with a split, whether that's a 60-40 split, a 70-30 split, or even an 80-20 split. What this does is allows a Daily Wire to not have to pay out if they're not getting paid through ad revenue, along with the personality not getting paid through ad revenue. So it negates everything that we're arguing about to start with. This is something very simple that Crowder could have countered with without having to go to these links of exposing, quote unquote, the industry, Big Con, Conservative Inc. But even if he didn't counter, there's a built-in time to say what you want to say. On the back end, you have 30 minutes to say what you want to outside of YouTube. Crowder even has this himself. It's called Piss Off YouTube. At some point, you have to drive traffic from the mainstream sources to an alternate venue. Now, I just want to touch on the culture war more broadly, this conservative movement. It is about the money. All you have to do is ask Elon. Any win that we have is going to be because we have the money to win. When you're fighting Silicon Valley and these big tech oligarchs, you have to compete with an offensive weapon. The only offensive weapon there is in this war is money. These people don't care about truth. They don't live in the same reality that we do. So we have to reach out in some way and take over. The only way to do that is to buy Twitter, is to build our own Silicon Valley, which is, in this case, the Daily Wire. And I think that Crowder knows this, and I think this is why he made this play. His play is to increase his monetary value, is to be able to convert his viewers, his subscribers, into subscriptions, a subscription service, a platform. I don't think Crowder has done this very well in the past, and if he keeps doing this moving forward through deception, it's not going to last very long. So as we move forward into this next week, Monday we have some showings. I believe Crowder's going on Patrick Bet-David's show. He's lined up with Timcast already, and the Daily Wire personalities have their daily shows that they're going to be covering, along with Twitter's 24/7. Though I do expect the Daily Wire personalities to tone it down. I would imagine that they don't want to keep this thing afloat if they don't have to, because it doesn't look good for them. It doesn't look good for Crowder either. And I look forward to seeing the Crowder stands realize that they've been lied to. And for the record, one more time, I'm not paid by the Daily Wire. I don't have a Daily Wire contract. But if you present me one, I might start negotiating at $50 million. So if you made it this far, give me a like, comment, subscribe, so we can keep up with the Kardashians together. I'm Zeb Boykin, and words have meaning.